Hi guys, welcome in the Rover Sports. How is everybody doing today? I hope everybody is having a decent Sunday. I'm going to pop on here for maybe 25 minutes just to talk about the NFL. I can pull up scores. I wanted to get your thoughts on today's games. I wanted to communicate with you guys. It's no thrills. It's me doing a live stream show. I went to the Giants game today. I went back home and I got to see a lot of the 4 o'clock hour. I also tracked what happened at 1 o'clock today. So hopefully some people want to come hang out, talk some football, and we'll talk. Roman, how are you? Thanks for coming into the live show. I just watched a sensational football game. I watched the Green Bay Packers and the LA Rams, and I thought that Green Bay played admirable football. I thought that Jair Alexander was making a lot of plays. I liked how they didn't call any roughing the passers on Jared Goff. Like Clay Matthews had a great sack in the fourth quarter. Mike Pettin in that defense was humming today. And Aaron Rodgers was elite against a depleted secondary. I think that Talib and Peters might have been out. And Aaron Rodgers looked like himself today. He was making great throws. You felt that it was going to come down to a Mason Crosby field goal if Aaron Rodgers and the Packers got the football back. But it was a game that the Rams could have lost, and it was a clutch win by the Rams. The special teams won the game. Todd Gurley played really well. Jared Goff had great protection. He's been having a great season. And this is really the Rams' year to win it. I mean, you look at the NFC right now, they're clearly the best team in the NFL. It's them and the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Rams have done it last year, and this is the time for Sean McVay to strike. This is the time for Jared Goff to claim a championship. You know, San Francisco doesn't have their starting quarterback. The Arizona Cardinals are where they're at, and the Rams are a great, great team. And for the New Orleans Saints, I mean, the Saints have the Ravens, and then the Saints have the Vikings tonight in Minnesota, and the Saints then play the Rams next week. So really, really tough, treacherous games for the New Orleans Saints, I should say. Coming up here, we're going to learn a lot about the Saints, and I'm going to go ahead and open up another tab and put up all the scores. I could see the stats, the highlights. On the other screen here, guys. And how are you guys doing? I hope you guys all had a great football Sunday. So let's just talk about let's talk a little bit about the games today. I think that the most telling thing that happened today is, one, Jameis Winston today threw 4 interceptions in the game. With Jameis Winston, now, is Jameis Winston going to be done or not? And I believe that when you combine Jameis Winston with his play this year, which has been very spotty, which has been up and down, and today was a horrible day, Hue Jackson requesting a trade, the coaching staff not really being that congruent, I think it would be foolish for the Buccaneers with Jameis, with the whole combination of things. I think it would be foolish to stick with Winston, because the one thing about Jameis is he's not the quickest decision maker. He doesn't manipulate with his eyes, and he's not that great of an athlete for the NFL level. So I look at Jameis Winston, and I think that the Buccaneers are going to smartly move on from him, especially with all of the off-the-field issues that Jameis Winston has going for him. And today with his performance, I think it made it pretty easy. The guy threw 4 interceptions, and he does have a very talented crew of players to work with. So I look at the Buccaneers now and Jameis Winston, and that situation becomes even more complicated. Ronaldo, I went to the Giants game today. And the Giants, somebody just commented here that the Giants are like the Cleveland Browns of football. And when you go to a Giants game, you can't expect the Giants to win a game anymore. They just have sucked. And there's no sugarcoating anything. You can blame it on the schedule. You can't blame it on injuries. But that's kind of what ended up happening today. And that's what ended up transpiring, is that Eli Manning, Pat Shurmur, Pat Shurmur's a terrible coach. Steve Wilkes already looks better than Shurmur. Matt Patricia looks a lot better. Matt Nagy looks a million times better than Pat Shurmur does. So he might just be the worst first-year coach out of all of them. Yeah, exactly, Ronaldo. You're absolutely right. I heard today Sam Darnold was terrible. I heard Jeremy Bates was awful. I knew that if the Jets lost to the Vikings, that the Bears game would be really, really challenging. And now the Miami Dolphins have 8 days of rest, and Miami might beat the Jets. And when is it going to be up with Todd Bowles? I mean, when are you going to decide that mediocrity is not good? And when are you going to hire an offensive-minded head coach? Charles, that Denver game, I'm going to go back and watch that, because the thing that was so interesting was that you guys were keeping it close with Kansas City for a while. I know Mahomes threw 4 touchdowns. Sammy Watkins went off today, and I gotta go back and watch. Did Case Keenum play well? I have to see. I mean, Denver is competing. I mean, they've had a rough schedule. You play Kansas City. You played the Rams twice. You played the Rams once, Kansas City twice. The game against the Jets was just absolutely embarrassing. That's the one game that you can point to where you can go, that was just absolute dog shit. But let's look at the Broncos' schedule now, because they did compete up there in Kansas City, so they could take a little bit of momentum if they wanted to. The Broncos coming up next, they play the Houston Texans. That's a very, very interesting game. Very interesting game. Charles, it's difficult to guard against Sammy Watkins, to guard against Andy Reid, to really compete with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not easy to beat Kansas City. All right. So if Case played well, then that's a real positive, because what are the Broncos now? 3-4. You get the Chargers on the road. That's probably going to be a loss. The Texans at home, that could be a win. Then you play the Steelers. You go to the Bengals. And then the last 3 games are all winnable. So what are the Broncos at right now? Is it 3-5? I mean, you're looking at maybe 9-7, 8-8 sort of year. Vance Joseph needs to get to 9-7. But I'll tell you what, when you look at the home games that Denver's going to be playing, it's possible that the Broncos can split with the Chargers. And the only game that's looking like a loss is at the Chargers and then at the Bengals. But this team can't win on the road. So either the Broncos are going to go like 8-8, 7-9. If you're 8-8, 7-9, Vance might get fired. If you go 9-7, sneak into a wild card, then Case might come back next year. CJ Beathard, man, he just is really good at losing close games, isn't he? I mean, Richard Sherman got burned by Christian Kirk. The Rosen one was amazing today. Josh Rosen might have just taken over the rookie quarterback class. He and Larry Fitzgerald had a great connection. Byron Leftwich as the offensive coordinator for the Cardinals. They get Mike McCoy out of there. That team really fought a huge momentum win for Josh Rosen. Rosen is as good of a pure passer as you're going to find. I mean, the technique, everything about Josh Rosen, when you give the guy time, he has the intelligence, he has the physical abilities to play in this league. Josh Rosen, I said him and Mayfield would be the best ones in this class. And Josh Rosen today was spectacular, absolutely spectacular. I'm going to be doing a film review probably on that 2-minute drill. It was a thing of beauty for Josh Rosen today. He is more talented, and Ronaldo, I'm going to say this, he's more talented than Sam Darnold. And Josh Allen, even when Josh Allen was healthy, Josh Allen still didn't have a plan. Josh Allen was still going out there, and he did not have a plan. But Byron Leftwich was really communicating well with the Cardinals. That was a hell of a game. Hell of a game. Yeah, I have to see, Charles, about Baker Mayfield. Pablo, NBA, says that the New York Giants should have traded for Lamar Jackson. I don't really think a mobile quarterback is necessary, like the be-all, end-all for the Giants. I think the offensive line often gets a lot of blame, even maybe too much blame. Today, Eli Manning played a terrible football game. And that is it with Eli Manning. He is officially done. It's going to be Lauletta that is going to be starting. At least that's what I would do. There's no reason to play him in San Francisco. You have a team in the 49ers that is one of the worst teams in the NFL. Maybe the snap went over that dude's head with CJ Beathard so that the Niners could preserve a loss. Maybe that was purposeful. Maybe you guys, conspiracy theory guys, have to see. But Eli Manning is totally done. Absolutely done. Pat Shurmur has one more year to turn it around. I don't care if you have a rookie head coach. Will Hernandez, Nate Solder, they were run blocking decently, especially in the second half. It's just Eli Manning, even when he had time, he wouldn't know how to throw the football away. He took way too many sacks today, way too many sacks, and they're not all on the offensive line. He is too old. He is not a good quarterback anymore. He is terrible. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in football, and it's totally over. Terrell talks about Odell Beckham. I can go 20 minutes on Odell Beckham. But yes, I think the trade option should be available for Odell Beckham. Yes. The only guy that's safe is Saquon Barkley. Big win today for Ned Music and the Chicago Bears. I'm going to go back and watch the game. I heard from people who watched the Jets-Bears game that it was a really, really ugly football game. But I'm going to go back. I heard the Jets were undisciplined. I heard they made a lot of mistakes. I heard Sam Darnold didn't throw the ball more than 15 yards. I don't know if it was windy in Soldier Field. I'm going to go back, watch it slowly back, and I'll probably report back to you guys on how shitty the Jets were on the road today. I heard the defense was okay, but at the same time, I don't like bend but not break defense. I really don't. I like 3-and-out defense. It's interesting, Sniper, that you say that, Sniper Doles, about the 49ers. It's really hard to assess this team without Jimmy Garoppolo. The Packers game, they could have won with Jimmy. Today's game, they could have won. Richard Sherman not guarding Christian Kirk was annoying. The 49ers now, if they get the number 1 pick in the draft, and I probably have to do a video on this, if they select Joey Bosa, he has to be an amazing pass rusher. But the point is, you have Solomon Thomas, you have Armstead, and DeForest Buckner. And then you have Fred Warner and Reuben Foster. So I would maybe look at trading back a couple of slots. I would like Greedy Williams. He's one of the longest corners in the NFL. You get him and Richard Sherman to play on the same side. And maybe you trade back for picks, because it isn't like there's a Myles Garrett this year. I mean, Ed Oliver might be a really good player. So I don't know if Witherspoon's the answer. Maybe look at safeties. If you're the 49ers, you're going to need like an A.J. Brown, another wide receiver. Maybe Bryce Love from Stanford is a guy you get in the second round. You select a running back if possible. You need several positions, but defensive line, I don't know, is going to be that. I don't know if the defensive line is going to be one that is going to be utilized. Kyle, I saw a little bit of the fourth quarter of that game, and I don't know. I thought that the game was fairly even. I thought Aaron Rodgers played really, really well. You know what was interesting today was Derek Carr. Derek Carr had 3 touchdowns today. Statistically, Derek Carr had a big, big game today for the Oakland Raiders. So I have to go back and watch, because statistically, Derek Carr led Oakland to 28 points, threw for over 300 yards, had a really, really good game against this Colts defense. So maybe Derek Carr is actually throwing deep balls, and he didn't have Amari Cooper. So we have to see what Greg Olsen and Derek Carr did today. But Derek Carr had a game where the trade Derek Carr rumors are, maybe if Derek Carr now wants to get traded, today helped either his trade value or it's going to encourage the Raiders to keep on to him, because the trade deadline is Tuesday. Yeah, that Ty Montgomery play was so stupid. Should have just kneeled the ball and not getting Aaron Rodgers to touch the ball. And then on 3rd and 10, they couldn't stop him. it's just little things that killed the Packers, and great teams like the Rams playing at home, house money. The Rams are the best team in the NFL. Jared Goff's been very accurate. He has a great offensive line, and Jared Goff's played really, really well. Now, could Cam Newton and other quarterbacks play as well as Jared Goff in that system? Possibly, but Jared Goff, give him the credit, man. He's leading the best team in the NFL, and out of the NFC, Aaron Donald, when Sue is healthy, that defense, you're going to have to somehow beat them in LA. That's going to be a very tall task because I think Todd Gurley might be the MVP this year if I had to vote. He was outstanding last year. He is such a good player. Now, Patrick Mahomes, an incredible player as well for Kansas City. I looked at Kansas City's schedule. The Chiefs look like they can go 14-2. It's going to be tough to beat Mahomes. I mean, his numbers, the touchdowns, outstanding stuff. The Baltimore Ravens, if they gave up 35 or whatever points to the Carolina Panthers, the Panthers are for real. The Baltimore Ravens, I'm not ready to quit on the Baltimore Ravens, but it's really disappointing. They played the Saints really well, and then they had an emotional game. They went to Carolina, and it didn't compute in Carolina. You have to watch for Joe Flacco. You have to see what's going on with this defense right now, and that game should be an interesting study. But the Ravens were picked to win. They're going to have to figure out a way to get back on track. Pittsburgh continues to right the ship. Every year when Mike Tomlin is on the chopping block, you have got to give Mike Tomlin a lot of credit for the Steelers winning. I look at Hue Jackson, and I think Hue Jackson should be fired. I mean, all the turmoil with Todd Haley, it's just annoying. It's despicable. I'd like to see Todd Haley lead that group. I think Baker and the offense likes Todd Haley. So Hue Jackson, it's just, when are you going to ever fire the guy? Next week, you have Steelers and Ravens. That's going to be an incredible game. The Steelers right now are 4-2. And if the Ravens win that game, that's a season sweep. So that is going to be the game of the week on CBS, Ravens and Steelers next week. So you look at what Baltimore has coming up. Baltimore has the Steelers, then they have a bye, and then they are home for the Bengals and the Raiders. So if they win next week, there's a great chance that the Ravens will be 6-4 because they play the Bengals and the Raiders, and they should win. They should win all three of these games. They're going to be favored versus the Steelers. Then they go to Atlanta, Kansas City. So the Ravens still look like a 10-6 team. Like, I'm not ready to jump ship on them because I can easily see them with the schedule. I can see the Ravens finding a way. In fact, they only have 1 or 2 games that are probably losses. If they could beat the Falcons too, they could possibly go on a 4-game winning streak. They'll probably lose to the Chiefs. They play the Chargers on the road. I mean, it's looking like 9-7 for them, 10-6. And 10-6 is going to win that division. I have to see what the Bengals have, but it's going to be interesting. I don't know if the Steelers will be favored because the home team gets 3. I think the line will be Ravens -2. I really do, or Ravens -3. And I think that the Ravens will be favored, and I think the Ravens could possibly beat the Steelers. Marcos, I saw the Redskins in person. I am still not impressed by the Washington Redskins. I know AP ran off that long run. The Giants are a horrible team. There is no defending the Giants. The Redskins, I still don't know if I believe in the Redskins. The Eagles, Marcos, I'll give you guys credit. You guys went to Jacksonville. You guys got to win. I know the Jaguars had the shoplifting thing or not even shoplifting, that's LiAngelo Ball. But they went out and they purchased bottle service. It really is not that big of a crime in the grand scheme. It makes it seem like Jacksonville Jaguar players are being completely irresponsible, but nobody wanted to pay that crazy bill. It's not like a boat trip. I mean, they're out in London. They know the city so well. Like, I think that that's just kind of a BS story. I just think it's a BS. It's London. The girls and drinks must be crazy out there. And I don't think it's that big of a deal. I really don't. The confusion about the bill, it made it seem like it was a huge deal. It wasn't that distracting. I mean, Blake Bortles, I didn't watch any of that game, and I'm not a huge fan of waking up for football. I'll just say that. A lot of you guys love the London game, but I am not the biggest fan of the London games because it's, again, football's a long enough day. I don't like getting up that early. I'm more excited for Sunday night football. And I don't know, maybe if you guys travel to London to watch your team play, maybe that is really, really cool. I think it's very interesting what the Bucs are going to do now, because now you really do have a quarterback controversy, because Jameis could have ended it by playing decently today. They put Fitzpatrick in. He comes back. If Fitzy, maybe they could trade Fitzy at the trade deadline. Somebody should probably get traded out of that quarterback race if I were the Tampa Bay Bucs. If I were the Bucs, it's enough with Jameis Winston. The drama off the field, the inconsistent play. There's a lot of good draftable quarterbacks now that you can go out and get. I would just simply ride with Fitzpatrick for maybe a couple of more seasons, build the team, and then try to get a stud quarterback in there. I would continue to build the defense. Your team is a little bit older. You play in a really tough division with Drew Brees and the Saints. The Saints aren't going to be there forever. I'd rebuild it a little bit, have Fitzpatrick, just let Jameis Winston go, honestly. Try to trade him for something. You could trade him to a team that needs quarterback depth for maybe a 5th rounder or something, and that's probably what I'd do. It is just too annoying. The Buccaneers, if they start Jameis, it's just dumb. It's a ticking time bomb situation with Jameis Winston. It really is. And today, Fitzpatrick played better. And it's just, you don't want Jameis as a franchise guy. I don't think he's good enough to warrant that. And I just don't think he's a franchise guy. Exactly. You saw the offensive lineman with Fitzpatrick celebrating. Exactly right. The Packers are really interesting, Jamal. That's a great question. I don't know if McCarthy's going to get fired. It's not like there's a lot of great coaches out there. But year after year, the Packers just can't seem to really click on both sides of the football. Now, Green Bay played great today. So I'm curious to see if this is going to be a turning point for the Packers, because they almost went to LA and won. And this could be a game that galvanizes you, or it could tear you apart. Now, they play the Patriots next week, so that's going to be brutal. And if they lose that game, then they lose pace in the NFC North, which, again, the Packers are not that good in the North. I think they're maybe 1-1 with the tie. The Vikings look like the team that beat in the North. And the NFC wild card is ridiculous right now. The Seattle Seahawks are for real. Russell Wilson is back. So it really looks like Mike McCarthy. It's very interesting you bring him up. He is certainly on the hot seat, certainly. But, again, in Pittsburgh and Green Bay, they don't really fire their own there. And they don't really make those kinds of moves. So that's a really tough question. I don't have a definitive answer on that question. Todd Bowles, Brian, I would definitely get rid of. This guy has proven to be so mediocre, so average, doesn't motivate. The offense, Jeremy Bates. I'm tired of the New York Jets. They are stale. They have too much talent to constantly be performing in the same facet, to constantly be laying eggs and making mistakes. Todd Bowles is not an elite coach. You can get John DeFilippo, who is a great coach. You can get Shane Waldron, who I think is a really, really good football coach. You can do all those things. So if I'm the Jets, that's definitive. Yes, definitive. Fire Todd Bowles. That's as definitive as it gets, is firing Todd. Okay? That's as definitive as it gets, is Todd Bowles needs to be gone. Zero doubt. Michael, great point. I'm probably going to be doing a show. I hope on Tuesday that Cop Pizzle and Bad Dog come on the show. I hope that they come on the show with me and the Entertainer. I actually hope you guys come on to the Entertainer Sports Show because we're going to be talking all about the New York Giants. ENTERTANAH. He's even doing a live stream tonight on the Chiefs. But you bring up a really good point. If I'm the Giants, you look at the quarterbacks, Daniel Jones. If you select a quarterback, you got to love the quarterback. But the Giants can easily use Jonah Williams, who's a really good tackle out of Alabama. They can use that because then you can either have Nate at right, you can have Nate Solder at the right part of the line, and then you solidify the offensive line. So you get some bookends. I'd get guards. I'd pay for guards and tackles. You look at the center position. You evaluate every position. I would go all offensive line because you need foundational talent. This team right now doesn't have a lot of foundational players that you can count on. Even though we look at Dalvin Tomlinson, B.J. Goodson, Alec Ogletree, Janoris Jenkins, Landon Collins, even though we look at Shepard and Ingram as guys that are really good players because they were drafted high and because they had great highlight tapes in college, none of them are really producing. So if you're the Giants, you can just build this whole thing around. You could maybe even trade back your pick, and I'd even like 2 first-rounders like in the mid-rounds, and I would even give up maybe my top 3 pick. Maybe Greedy Williams is a sensational cornerback from LSU that you can maybe build around, but that's, again, a cornerback. I look at the offensive line as being really important. And drafting a quarterback, I think Lauletta's going to be fine. I think that Bridgewater could be fine. You could find a Case Keenum and kind of continue to build your team. And then you could possibly go for a quarterback maybe in the first round somehow. So I think that's kind of the way I'm leaning. I don't know if I want the pass rusher Nick Bosa. So I think that would be probably the intelligent way to go. And then you just kind of build pieces. So then if you screw up on a quarterback, Michael, then, you can kind of have those pieces to rely on for a long time. Imagine if the Giants had Dallas's offensive line, then you can plug and play at the quarterback position, and then Saquon can be utilized. As long as Saquon is utilized, the Giants are going to win games. And I'd also look at probably getting a new coach as well. People talk about Mike McCarthy being a terrible coach. I think Pat Shurmur's doing a terrible job this year. He has no killer instinct. He's emotionless on the sideline. It's brutal watching Shurmur coach. He is below mediocre. He is one of the shittiest coaches in football. I look at Kyle Shanahan, and I still see tons of upside. I'm not moving on Shanahan at all. I'm not moving on Steve Wilkes really at all. Byron Leftwich today had a really good game. The players are seeming to buy in for Arizona. The guy, even Vance Joseph, I'm not moving on Vance just yet. Hue Jackson, Todd Bowles, even Shurmur, I'd consider moving on from. I don't know, man. You're going to be 2-14, but they're not going to fire. They're not going to fire Shurmur. But watching him coach games is really, really terrible. But overall, let's go through the NFL again real quick. Tonight's game should be great. I am going to try to watch that Seattle-Detroit game because I thought Detroit was turning the corner. They're not. I thought the Ravens were turning the corner. They're not. I thought the Bucs could have turned the corner. I said that the Bucs would make the playoffs, and the Bucs are right back at square one. Dog shit. The Colts get a win, but I think the Colts are not a good team, even with the way that they played tonight. Interestingly enough, the game is already on. Sunday Night Football starts so early. The Broncos played better than I expected today. The Ravens I'm not going to give up on. There's a lot of teams right now where you're either completely dead or you're not giving up on them. I think the Browns are dead right now. Dead. Pretty shitty performance. And the Jets, bad performance. So the Eagles are going to be fine. I still think the Eagles will win the NFC East. That's what I learned today. Matt Nagy with a really good job for the Bears. Solid job getting a win. Josh Rosen with the comeback. Overall, a really, really good day. And Ned, yes, the Chicago Bears with a big-time win today. The Bengals, what is their record? Bengals are 5-3, but I don't think they're good at really at anything. The Saints play the Bengals in 2 weeks. The Saints play Bengals, and then Bengals go to Ravens. Bengals then have 2 home games after that. Manageable schedule, actually. Manageable, but if the Bengals lose, they're going to be 5-5. Then they host 2 games in which they can win, so they'll get to 7-5, 7-6, 8-6, 9-6, 9-7. With the Ravens, 9-7. This AFC North is going to be ridiculous. Let's look at Pittsburgh right now. I just want to see Pittsburgh's schedule, what I have Pittsburgh projected at. Pittsburgh. They are right now, the Steelers are right now 4-3-1, I believe. 4-2-1, so that's good. They're going to lose, make them 4-3-1. Steelers then host the Panthers. I'm going to give them that win. It's Thursday night football. All right, Thursday night. Give me 5-3-1 at Jacksonville. 6-3-1. Steelers go to Denver. 7-3-1. Steelers host the Chargers. They can really get on a run. I'm looking at this schedule. I think the Steelers are going to end up winning this division. There might be 3 teams from this division that get in as wild cards in the AFC. I think there could be 3 teams. Well, we'll have to see how the Chargers finish, but very interesting. Bengals and Ravens are going to be battling. And I think the Ravens are much more dangerous in a playoff scenario. All righty, man. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is overrated at all. I think he's a great talent, Super Bowl champion, really good quarterback, elite Hall of Famer, top 10 guy, one of the most talented guys to play the position. Just never really had the support, honestly, around him. That's the honest truth. All righty, guys. Take care. Have a great, great night.